Alright guys, to get started with today's video, I'm going to have you do this warm-up here. You're going to graph both of these inequalities on the same coordinate plane. Don't forget to shade your inequalities. And I don't want you guys to use pen on this. I'd rather use pencil first to draw your lines, but shade in the colored pencils that I put in your kit so that we can tell the difference between the inequalities. If you look down here, there's some overlap sometimes, and I want to be able to tell the difference and which line goes with what shading. So as you can see, after I drew this solid line and shaded it in blue, I went back over that solid line and blue here. Same thing I did with the red. After I drew the dashed line in red and shaded it in red, I went over the dashed line in red. Okay? So just do that so that we can tell the difference between which inequality is which. And you might want to mark that somewhere on your paper too, to show that you know the difference. Don't forget that the graph paper is in the back of the room on the counter, 3 different sizes. And that is it. Get started. Don't forget to use your graphic organizer if you get stuck. You're going to want to pause the video here because after this I will go over how to do this. Alright guys, so hopefully you were able to figure that out, and if not, hopefully you're on this part of the video to get help or check your answer. So the first thing I want to do is graph this inequality on the left here. I'm going to graph it in blue, so I'm going to just do everything in blue. You guys can just do it in pencil and then just mark which one you're going to put in which color. And so if we're graphing, we see that it's already in this slope-intercept form. This y is greater than form. And so, again, when we're back to graphing, we want to remember that we need to know 2 key pieces of information if we're going to graph in this form. And that's the slope, or m, and the y-intercept initial value, b. And we have to remember that we can identify these from the inequality itself. The slope is how steep or not steep the line is, and that's the coefficient of x and the number in front of x. And so we see that that number here is going to be a negative 1, because there's nothing here. We know that that's a 1. The negative sign makes it a negative 1. And we know that that is the same as saying negative 1 over 1. And in terms of slope, that means down 1 to the right 1. Okay? And with our intercept, that initial value here, we've got negative 2. Okay, so remember it's usually a plus b, and so the symbol, this negative symbol, goes with the 2 here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here on my xy coordinate plane. Alright, there's my point. And so I can use this slope of down 1, right 1. That's going to put me down here, and then I'll go off the graph. So I'm actually going to reverse that. Instead of going down 1 and right 1, or over here, I guess that would for me, I'm going to go up 1 and left 1, because that's the same as going down and to the right. So this is down and to the right, and so instead I'm going to go up and to the left since that's the same thing. I'm just going to put these little dots here so I can kind of tell where I'm going. Alright. And then, so I put that, I've plotted out those points. Now I need to see if this is going to be a solid line or a dashed line. And again, we look back at the inequality symbol for that. Since this does not have an underline, it's only the things that are greater than negative x minus 2. So it's not the things that are greater than or equal to. So that means since we're not going to include them, we're going to make ourselves a little dashed line here. Alright, so we're going through, dashing our line. Doesn't have to be completely perfect, but as close as we can. And I think next time I might cheat, since it's a little harder to draw these dashed lines with this tab here. And so we've got that set up. Now we need to see where we're going to shade. And hopefully for your shading, you're not pressing too hard on the colored pencil, because then we won't get to see where they intersect. But if you look at your graphic organizer, or you're thinking about this logically, we're looking about for values that are greater than, where y is greater than negative x minus 2. And again, you can always plug in a point here, and I always suggest 0, 0 to see if that's going to be the case. And if I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, I'm going to have negative 0 minus 2 is less than 0. So 0 is going to be greater than negative 2. Since I know that's true, this is the region that I'm going to shade up here. I'm going to try to be quick about it, so excuse it if it's a little bit sloppy here, but we're going to do our best. Once we get this outline done, we should be alright. Alright, so as you're shading this in, remember you don't want to press too hard. You want to get good coverage. And sometimes we might have even more than just 2 things to graph on the same thing. So we might end up using 2 colored pencils and our regular pencil, or 3 different colored pencil colors. All right, so I'm just about finished shading in the region here. And so this shaded region represents all of the solutions for this inequality here. So any point I pick in this shaded region will give me a solution for my blue inequality there on the left. Now I'm going to do the one on the right. And so again, we need to identify the key pieces of information, the slope, that rate of change, and the y-intercept, that starting value on this y-axis. And so the slope, m, is the number in front of x, and we see that that is a 3, which we know is the same as 3 over 1. And since it's positive, we know that it's going up and to the right. So I need to figure out where I'm starting, and it says on here that I'm starting at 6. And so I'm going to put that point at 6. And now we see, kind of a good idea to use the different colors, because otherwise we might not be able to see this point if it's in pencil and we're putting it over a region that we shaded in pencil. So I put that there, and obviously, our slope we just talked about means up 3 and right 1. But if I do that, I am way off the graph here. So again, I'm going to reverse that. Up 3 and right 1 is the same as down 3 and left 1. And so here we are. Okay, and then down 3, 1, 2, 3, and left 1. And then I can keep doing that. 1, 1, 2, 3, left 1. Alright, so now I've got pretty much the whole graph laid out. I'm going to cheat when I'm drawing this line. Now we still need to see, is it going to be dashed or solid? It will be solid, and it'll be solid because it's got this underline, this or equal to piece. Alright, and so hopefully this will work out for me here. If I can connect. No, it's not working. Let's see what we can do here. Alright, so it looks like the computer doesn't want me to cheat either, so I'm going to do my best here for you guys to draw this. I can't make any promises that it's going to look great, but I'm going to see what I can do here. Alright, so after some minor technical difficulties, it looks like I think I've got it back. Try to put this line through here. Oh my goodness. A little bit messy, but there we go. Alright, so we've got our our line drawn here, and again it's solid because of that inequality symbol. If only it would go the way I want it to. But it's pretty close there, and so we'll deal with it where it is. That'll work. So we still need to do the shading portion of this though. And so we see that this is where y is less than or equal to 3x plus 6. So the places where y is going to be less to are going to be below this line. And so if I go ahead and start shading that region of the graph. Alright, so we got here, over here. Once we're out here, it doesn't matter if we're a little bit sloppy because we know that everything out here is going to be shaded in anyway. Alright, so at this point, you might notice that you have some blue, some red, and some what is kind of pinkish purple. And that is where the blue and the red overlap. Now, you might be looking back at what you just did and say, well, hey, I just saw these two inequalities. It's lined up just like those two equations in the systems of equations. Well, that's exactly what you just graphed. You graphed a system of inequalities here. And so normally where the system of equations intersects at a point, and that is the solution, with inequality, since we shade, their solution set is anything that involves the colors of all of the shaded region. So the blue only represents the blue inequality solutions. The red represents all the red inequality solutions. And the purple, or this pinkish purple, represents the set of solutions for both of these inequalities at the same time. So at this point, you can decide, I'm going to check myself to make sure that I'm correct. You definitely don't want to wreck yourself. So if I go ahead and pick a point to check, I'm going to pick this point right here, 0, 1. All right, 0, 1 is going to be my point that I'm going to use to check. And so what I'm going to do with that is plug it into the next one. So here's your congratulations message for doing that. One thing I do want you to take down, key info, the region shaded by all colors represents the set of solutions to all of the equations or inequalities in this case. Okay? So we're going to continue on with our check. If I'm plugging in 0, 1, I'm putting a 1 for y, and I'm putting in a 0 for x, and then I'm simplifying. So if I simplify this, I know that 0 just goes away, and negative 2. Is 1 greater than negative 2? It sure is. That means it works for this inequality over here. We'd have to try it over here. So 1 is y, less than or equal to 3 times, and x is 0, plus 6. And I know that 3 times 0 is 0, so I cancel that out. Is 1 less than or equal to 6? Absolutely. And so check. And that means we shaded in the correct region on our graph. And so this piece right here was the correct region for us to shade with both colors. And that's why I gave you guys 2 colored pencils in your kits. So now you can graph one of the inequalities in one color and one of the inequalities in the other color. And where the colors overlap is going to be the section that is the solutions. Okay? All right. So your objective here is to learn how to graph and shade systems of inequalities to find solutions. Sometimes you're going to have 3 of them. So I want you guys to give this one a shot on your own, and I will be here to help you. Don't forget that when you have one variable, like y is greater than or equal to negative 1, that's a certain kind of line. It's not going to be one of those diagonal lines. Same with x is greater than negative 2. Not going to be a diagonal line. It's going to be one of these horizontal or vertical lines. You've got to figure out which one. And I'll give you this little reminder here. Boy, bucks. Horizontal, 0, y equals. Vertical, undefined, x equals. And then don't forget on this inequality right here, you're going to have to get it into slope-intercept form. So the y equals mx plus b, or y is greater than or less than or equal to mx plus b. And so you're trying to get y by itself there before you graph that if you decide to go that route. So the last